When I started my public life 12 years ago, I understood the media might be interested in what I did, but I was not aware of how overwhelming that attention would become.
Please subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it truly means so much to me. What if I told you that one of the most loved women on the planet wrote a will meant to protect her sons, reward the people closest to her, and keep her legacy alive? But almost none of it actually played out the way she planned. Princess Diana left behind a fortune worth more than £21 million, along with clear written instructions about who should receive her jewelry, her personal belongings, and parts of her estate. She trusted the people closest to her to carry out those wishes. Yet only months after her death, court papers were filed and the entire plan started shifting behind the scenes. This is the real story of Princess Diana's final will, the quiet legal changes, the court order that rewrote key parts of her wishes, the disappointment felt by some of her godchildren, and the surprising journey of one of the most famous engagement rings in history. It also connects to the inheritance that later helped shape the lives of two princes, one preparing for the throne and another stepping away from palace life. Once you hear the full story, you might look at Diana's legacy very differently. Princess Diana first signed her will on June 1st, 1993, when she was just 32 years old. At that moment, she was still married to Prince Charles and continuing her royal duties as the Princess of Wales. The famous Panorama interview had not yet happened. The divorce was still years away, and the tragedy in Paris was something no one imagined. Her life looked very different when those documents were signed. Compared to other royal wills, Diana's was surprisingly straightforward. Many royal wills remained sealed for decades. For example, the will of Prince Philip was sealed for 90 years after his passing. Diana's will, however, was eventually made public in 1998, and when people read it, the details caught many by surprise. In the document, Diana named two people she trusted deeply to handle everything: her mother, Frances Shand Kidd, and her sister, Lady Sarah McCorquodale. They were appointed as executors and trustees, meaning they would oversee how Diana's estate was managed and distributed. Originally, Diana had also included her trusted private secretary, Patrick Jeffson, as a co-executor, but after he resigned in 1996, she updated the will and replaced him with her sister. Just one day after signing the will, on June 2nd, 1993, Diana also wrote a separate letter of wishes. This was a personal document explaining how she hoped her belongings would be divided. In that letter, she asked that all of her jewelry eventually go to her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, so that their future wives could wear those pieces one day. She also requested that 3/4 of her personal belongings, including clothing, photographs, furniture, and artwork, go to her two sons. The remaining quarter of those personal items was meant to be shared among her 17 godchildren. It was Diana's way of remembering the young people who had played a special role in her life. At the time of her death, Diana's estate was valued at around £21 million. The majority of that money was placed into a trust for Prince William and Prince Harry, with both princes originally set to receive their inheritance when they turned 25. Diana also left a personal gift of £50,000 to her longtime butler, Paul Burrell, a man she had trusted for years and considered deeply loyal. On top of that, she created a fund worth £100,000 for her sons and their future families. Every part of the will showed careful thought, love for her children, and trust in the people she left in charge. But after Diana's death, things didn't unfold exactly the way she had planned. Diana died on August 31st, 1997, following a car crash in Paris. She was only 36 years old. At the time, Prince William was 15 and Prince Harry was just 12. The world mourned, and millions followed every detail of what happened next. Then, only a few months later, something unexpected happened behind closed doors. In December 1997, just 4 months after Diana's funeral, her mother and sister went to the High Court of Justice in England and requested what is known as a variation order. This legal request allowed them to change parts of Diana's estate distribution, even though the original instructions were already written in her will and letter of wishes. The court approved several significant adjustments. One of the biggest changes involved the age at which William and Harry could receive their inheritance. Diana had set the age at 25, but the court decision raised it to 30. The princes would still be able to receive interest from the trust starting at 25, but the full inheritance would remain locked until later. The explanation given at the time was that both princes were growing up under extraordinary public pressure, and advisors believed waiting longer would help ensure they were mature enough to handle such a large fortune responsibly. But this decision was only the beginning of a series of changes that would quietly reshape parts of Diana's original plan. At first glance, raising the inheritance age from 25 to 30 sounded sensible. But here's the thing. Diana had chosen 25 very deliberately. That number wasn't random. It was written clearly in her will. Yet the decision to change it was made without consulting the two people most affected by it, Prince William and Prince Harry, who were still minors at the time. And then came the far more controversial change, the one involving Diana's godchildren. Diana had made it clear in her letter of wishes that 1/4 of her personal belongings should be shared among her 17 godchildren. These weren't random items either. Based on the value of the estate, each child was expected to receive roughly £160,000 worth of meaningful possessions from Diana's collection, items meant to carry emotional value and personal memories. But that plan never really happened the way she imagined. Instead, the executors made a different decision. Rather than dividing the collection as Diana had suggested, they selected just one item for each godchild themselves. Families later described many of these gifts as small keepsakes rather than valuable or sentimental heirlooms. Some reportedly received things like a decorative figurine or a simple coffee set, objects that felt far from the thoughtful legacy Diana had envisioned. What made the situation even more shocking was how quietly these changes were handled. For years, the godchildren's families had no idea that Diana's original wishes had been altered. They were never asked for input, and many didn't learn the truth until much later. The full story only started surfacing during a separate legal case involving Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell. He had been accused of taking items from Diana's estate, and during the investigation, details about the changes to her letter of wishes finally came to light. When the godchildren's families realized what had happened, many were stunned and deeply upset. Legally, the court allowed the executors to make those adjustments because of the wording Diana used in her letter. Instead of strict commands, she had written the document using phrases like wishes and discretion. That single word, discretion, gave her mother and sister the legal authority to decide how parts of the estate would actually be distributed. And then there is one object from Diana's estate that captured the world's attention more than any other: her engagement ring. The ring itself is unforgettable. It features a stunning 12-karat oval Ceylon sapphire, surrounded by 14 sparkling diamonds, all set in 18-karat white gold. Today it's considered one of the most famous pieces of jewelry ever worn by a royal. When Prince Charles proposed to Diana in 1981, the ring originally cost about £47,000. Today, experts estimate its value at well over £400,000. But its real worth goes far beyond money. It carries decades of history and emotion. Interestingly, Diana chose the ring herself from the Gerard catalog. That decision surprised palace officials because it meant the design wasn't unique. Technically, anyone could purchase the same ring, but over time, the piece became completely associated with Diana, transforming it into a symbol recognized all over the world. After Diana passed away, Prince William and Prince Harry were allowed to select a few items from her jewelry collection. According to Paul Burrell, William chose Diana's Cartier tank watch, a gift she had received for her 21st birthday. Harry, according to that same story, chose the sapphire engagement ring. Burrell later said the ring meant a lot to Harry because he remembered holding his mother's hand as a child and feeling the large sapphire stone against his fingers. For years, a touching story circulated about what happened next. The popular version claimed that when Prince William was preparing to propose to Kate Middleton in 2010, Harry offered the ring to his brother so Diana's future daughter-in-law could wear it. The story painted a picture of two brothers honoring their mother's memory together. But years later, that version of events was challenged. In his 2023 memoir, Spare, Prince Harry wrote that the widely told story was absolute rubbish. According to Harry, William had actually asked for the ring not long after their mother's death. Harry said he was happy to let it go, and that he never physically held the ring the way the popular story described. So which version is the real one? The truth may never be completely clear, but one thing is certain today. Diana's famous sapphire ring is now worn by Catherine, the Princess of Wales. And in a way, that outcome does reflect something Diana wrote in her original letter of wishes. She had asked that her jewelry eventually pass to her sons, so that one day their wives could wear the pieces. In that sense, at least part of her vision became reality. Meanwhile, the financial side of Diana's estate continued to grow quietly over the years. By the time Prince William and Prince Harry each turned 30, their individual shares of the inheritance had increased to roughly £10 million, about $16 million after taxes and legal costs. Careful investments in financial management had allowed the estate to expand significantly over time. For Prince William, the inheritance served mainly as additional personal wealth. His future financial security had always been tied to the monarchy itself. As the Prince of Wales today, William now controls the Duchy of Cornwall, a massive private estate worth more than $1 billion that generates millions in annual income. Reports also suggest that both William and Harry received additional funds, around $20 million, from their great-grandmother, the Queen Mother. But for Prince Harry, Diana's inheritance played a very different role. In his 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey, Harry revealed that when he and Meghan stepped back from their roles as senior royals, financial support from the royal household stopped. At that moment, the inheritance left by his mother became something far more important. It became the financial foundation that helped him build an independent life outside the palace. Diana's inheritance didn't just sit quietly in a bank account. Years later, it played a huge role in one of the most dramatic decisions in modern royal history. When Prince Harry and Meghan moved to California, the money Diana left behind helped make that possible. Harry even spoke openly about it during his 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey. He explained it very clearly, saying, "I've got what my mom left me, and without that, we would not have been able to do this." That single sentence revealed something powerful. The financial protection Diana created in 1993, when Harry was only 8 years old, eventually helped him step away from the same royal system that had once caused her so much pain. In a strange twist of fate, Diana's final gift to her younger son became something bigger than money. It became independence. It gave him the ability to build a life on his own terms outside the palace walls. But this situation also raises an interesting question that some royal watchers still debate today. Why exactly did the executors push the inheritance age from 25 to 30? The official explanation was simple. They believed the princes needed more time to mature before receiving such a large fortune. That sounds reasonable on the surface. However, some experts have quietly wondered whether there could have been other factors behind the decision. During those same years, members of the Spencer family were displaying many of Diana's personal belongings at Althorpe House, her childhood home. One of the biggest attractions was her famous wedding dress. Visitors from around the world traveled there to see pieces connected to Diana's life, and those exhibitions generated significant income for the estate. There is no clear evidence linking that situation to the court request, but the timing has raised eyebrows among some observers. Whether coincidence or not, it remains one of the lingering questions surrounding the changes made to Diana's estate. And then there are the people many believe were quietly left out of her final plans. Diana's godchildren. Diana cared deeply about these young people. She had 17 godchildren, and she made a very specific request about them in her letter of wishes. Just one day after signing her will, she wrote that 25% of her personal belongings should be shared among them. That detail showed how important they were to her. If her instructions had been followed exactly, each godchild might have received items valued at around $160,000. But the value wasn't only financial. Diana's personal collection included photographs, artwork, clothing, and keepsakes filled with memories from her life. Instead, things unfolded very differently. Rather than dividing the collection the way Diana described, the executors made another decision. Each godchild would receive just one item selected by them. The families themselves had no input in choosing these pieces. Many of the items turned out to be small household objects, things like plate sets or decorative figurines. Several families later said the gifts felt disconnected from Diana's life and from the emotional legacy she had intended to share. Some even described them as little more than tacky mementos. What upset many people even more was how little transparency there was around the entire process. For years, the Godchildren's families didn't even know about the letter of wishes Diana had written. The document wasn't widely discussed during the probate process, and the executors never shared it publicly before going to court to modify the estate distribution. When the details eventually surfaced during a legal case involving Paul Burrell, the reaction from several families was shock and disappointment. Many felt that promises Diana had quietly made were never truly honored. Legal experts now frequently reference Diana's case when discussing estate planning. Her situation shows the limits of a letter of wishes. Because the document used softer language rather than strict legal commands, it didn't carry the same authority as the will itself. The lesson many lawyers point out is simple. If someone wants their instructions followed exactly, those instructions must be written clearly inside the official will. A separate letter may express intentions, but it does not always have the power to enforce them. But when people talk about Diana's legacy, the real story goes far beyond legal documents and bank accounts. On paper, Diana left most of her estate to her 2 sons, along with gifts for her godchildren and her loyal butler. Yet, the deeper legacy she left behind is far more emotional than financial. She wrote her will when she was still young, believing she would have many years ahead to revise it if needed. She trusted that the people closest to her would carry out her wishes faithfully. Sadly, she never had the chance to update those plans. Even so, many parts of her legacy still live on today. Her famous sapphire engagement ring is now worn by Catherine, the Princess of Wales, exactly the kind of future Diana imagined when she wrote that her jewelry should eventually pass to her sons' wives. Every time Catherine appears at a major event wearing that ring, it quietly connects 2 generations of royal history. Diana's financial gift also gave Prince Harry the ability to build a completely different life outside royal duties, something Diana herself had once dreamed about but never fully experienced. And then there is Althorp, Diana's childhood home and final resting place. She is buried on a small island in the middle of the estate's lake, surrounded by trees and silence. The island itself is private and not open to the public. William and Harry will not inherit Althorp. The estate follows traditional inheritance rules and will eventually pass to Diana's nephew, Louis Spencer. Still, the princes will always be welcome to visit the island where their mother rests. Diana's brother, Charles Spencer, has said many times that it is important for his nephews to have access whenever they wish. Princess Diana wrote her will at just 32 years old, expecting she would have decades ahead to refine it. Life didn't give her that time. The people she trusted ended up making changes she never approved. But there is one thing they could never change: Diana's love for her children and the impact she left on the world. Nearly 3 decades after her passing, her ring still shines at royal events, her inheritance still protects her sons, and her memory still inspires millions of people around the globe. That is the real story behind Princess Diana's final will. The legal battles, the quiet changes, the forgotten promises, and the legacy that continues to shape the lives of 2 princes even today. If you found this story fascinating, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next royal deep dive. Share your thoughts in the comments too. Whose version of the engagement ring story do you believe more, Harry's or Burrell's? And do you think the executors made the right decisions? I'll see you in the next one.